FIRE is sold as the dream. Hit your number through aggressive saving and investing, quit your job young, and enjoy total freedom. But a 2026 Business Insider article reveals what happens after people in their 30s actually retire early. Boredom, identity crisis, and many having second thoughts. Today, in Real Fi Talk, we're going to dive into real stories from Josette Chang, Gwendolyn Mertz, and Rose Hahn. We're going to talk about the hidden challenges and smarter ways to approach financial independence. Welcome to Real Fi Talk. I'm Aaron. On this channel, we talk about the ups and downs of financial independence, how to achieve it, and how to sustain it. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe below. I'll read all comments that you leave and respond. Also, click the little bell so you get an update on the most recent content. If you like this content, please feel free to share it with friends as well. All right, let's get started. Okay, so this is a pretty recent article from Business Insider, and you can see the title here, What Happens After You Retire Early? People have done it in their 30s, describe boredom, identity shifts, and second thoughts. Okay, so for those of us who are interested in financial independence and might be interested in retiring early, this is not the type of title that we're typically searching for. These are probably not going to be the most positive stories, but I think they're worth looking at. So let's take a look at this first one. And this first story is, the article goes into Josette Chang. So she and her husband hit their FIRE number, and she left her finance job, and she calls it a blessing. She doesn't have a boss, there's no packed calendar of obligations, and she really described kind of early excitement, weeks of Netflix, movies, and pure relaxation. And then, at least for her, the reality hits hard. She starts questioning her purpose, how to fill her days. And I think she wishes she had spent more time planning life after retirement before she actually retired. FIRE communities talk quite often about how to retire early and rarely about building a satisfying life afterwards. Now, that's something that I've noticed. I mean, there's a lot of time spent talking about reaching the number, how to achieve it, how to mitigate risk. But once you achieve financial independence and you retire early, it's important to know, what are you retiring to? Are you going to just roam the earth? You might get bored pretty quickly. Her current approach is asking, how do I spend my time? What do I really value? And what relationships and communities matter most? Experimenting with activities and refining what brings meaning and joy to her. So that's good. She's trying to look out and discover, what is really going to give her meaning in her life. So then we get into this second story, and this is Gwendolyn Mertz. She saved 78% of her income, quit at 28, but she was back to work in less than 9 months. Her story sounds like she graduated college. She really hated corporate life. She really went all in on FIRE. She saved up to 78%, as I mentioned, of her income, built up a $200,000 nest egg in just 5 years. And if you do the math on that, 4% of 200,000, that's not a ton of money. That's only about $8,000 a year, if I'm doing my math correct. She quit her 9-to-5 job at age 28 to freelance, write, podcast, and draw from savings. So it sounded like she was going to have a number of side hustles to survive. And what went wrong for her, self-employment was actually more stressful than freeing for her. Unexpected higher health care costs, and money locked in retirement accounts that limited her flexibility. And as I mentioned before, living off of $200,000 at 4% a year using the 4% rule, $8,000 is not a ton of money. So she was probably going to have to make up quite a bit of money there. And if she didn't like self-employment, that was going to be a challenge for her. Now, I know that there's things that you can do to access your retirement accounts early, 72T, but remember, she's only, 28 years old, and I'm doubting she wants to be tapping her retirement account and taking out those equal payments. at such an early age. So the result for Gwendolyn was she actually returned back to her W-2 job. And she realized, what she says, working my fingers to the bone and not having a great time being my own boss wasn't worth it. So sometimes having that W-2 job where you're not having to make every single decision is worth it. And in the right environment, work doesn't really have to feel miserable. And she now values that stability and no longer plans to fully retire in her 30s or 40s. So the third story is about Rose Hahn, seven-figure net worth at 32, camper van life. She paid off $100,000 in student debt, built a seven-figure portfolio by making more, spending less, and investing aggressively, quit her Wall Street job, lived in a camper van with total freedom. It was fun for like the first 6 months. That was her quote. And then it looks like she just got bored and didn't feel all that fulfilled less than a year into it. So I've heard these types of stories before where people think they're going to go roam the earth. It was pretty common during COVID to maybe go off the grid, get that camper, kind of dreaming of living in national parks, waking up to beautiful sunrises, maybe doing some writing, working remotely. Well, that can be fun. And for some people, that's great. But for others, if you're always living out of a van and having to find a local gym to take a shower, that might get old pretty quickly. And her regret there was over-focusing on accumulating dollars instead of accumulating moments and core memories that you can never replace. So again, this article really focuses on the challenges of the post-fire lifestyle. We heard from people saying boredom sets in fast once the novelty of no alarm clock and endless free time wears off. Identity shifts without a job title or structure. Many people struggle with purpose and self-worth. I think there's practical surprises as well. Healthcare is not cheap, especially in the US. There can be liquidity issues in your accounts. And self-employment is not easy. It's actually probably more challenging than just working for someone else. And then the accumulation trap. Constantly moving the goalposts makes it harder to feel like there's enough. And you might miss out on those important moments and experiences when you're trying to save 70, 80, 90% of all your income to retire early. Some return to work not because they have to also, but because they actually want the structure and stability and meaningful contribution. And that's not a bad thing. So what are maybe better ways or solutions to do FIRE? I would recommend plan to figure out what you want to retire to as much as what you're retiring from. Start thinking about values, relationships, daily routines that you have before you quit. Which ones are you going to keep? Which ones might you be giving up? And the retiring too. It's okay to not have it figured out. But do you have a couple things that you want to try out and be experimental with? For me, that was baking. I'd never cooked before, but I've really enjoyed learning how to bake and becoming a baseball umpire. So what is your equivalent of that? They can be hobbies, they can be jobs, but think about what you might want to try. Test those activities, drop the ones that don't spark that joy, and actively help you build an extended community. I think not having a community is also, it can be very isolating if you retire early and no one is around to spend time with you during the day. You really need that purpose. I think you can also consider hybrid paths. There's Coast Fire, Barista Fire, there's part-time consulting work. Those can be a little bit of a slippery slope, but for some, retiring full-time just doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you can retire and try something, try working part-time and then see what you do with those extra maybe 20 hours a week and see if you like it. I think also shifting this mindset from endless accumulation to what is enough is really important. And it's easy to start trying to put in more and more padding as soon as you hit your financial independence number, and you get that one more year syndrome. And it's especially critical when the market is down like it is this year. So it's just something to be aware of. But again, if you have an opportunity to take mini retirements or sabbaticals while you're still working and kind of simulate some of that post-fire life, you're going to actually find out what you enjoy. So thank you again for watching this content, this video on RealFi Talk. I'll be back again next week. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this article? Do you have friends that retired early that maybe have gone back to work? Why did they go back to work? Okay, leave a comment below, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.